Hello guys, welcome to the Plant Care Tips channel. My guest today is Monstera Albo with its magnificent leaves. I would be very happy if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. Let's start the video now. Monstera Albo is a rare and elusive plant that many plant collectors love and adore. This variegated monstera is at the top of many wish lists around the world thanks to its stunning variegation and prestige reputation, with small plants often selling for several $100s. It is a subspecies of the popular Monstera deliciosa, characterized by large patches of white, naturally occurring variegation on split leaves. Note that it is toxic to pets. Monstera Albo care. Native to the tropical rainforests of Central America, these popular, showy houseplants grow well in most indoor conditions. If you've cared for a Monstera deliciosa before, then you already have a great head start since caring for the Albo is pretty similar. Monstera Albo are known for being a bit high maintenance, so there are a few differences to keep in mind. Encourage your Monstera Albo to grow large, healthy leaves by providing it with a moss pole. These vining plants climb trees in their natural environment and do well when given a moss pole to climb indoors. Light. To keep its variegation bright and plentiful, provide your Monstera Albo with lots of bright, indirect light. At least 6 to 7 hours of filtered light is recommended. It is important to keep these plants out of direct sunlight as the variegated parts of their leaves are extra sensitive to sunburn. If Monstera Albos do not get enough light, they will start to lose their variegation, so they are not good low-light plants. Soil. A rich, well-draining soil mix is important. A combination of equal parts perlite, orchid bark, cocoa peat, and cocoa coir will provide the drainage and nutrients that Monstera Albos require. Mixing in some natural fertilizers like worm castings is also a good idea and will provide an extra boost. Water. These tropical plants are susceptible to root rot if overwatered, so it's important to let the soil dry slightly between waterings. Allow the top 1 to 2 inches of soil to dry and then water well, allowing the excess water to drain from the pot's drainage holes. Temperature and humidity. As with other plants in the Monstera genus, the Albo does best in warm temperatures, ideally between 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This makes it well suited to indoor growing, although it can also be grown outdoors during the summer or year-round in USDA zones 9 to 11. They do best with at least 60% humidity, which is generally higher than most household humidity levels. That means you will likely need to provide added humidity, which can be done by placing a humidifier nearby, grouping it with other plants, or moving it to a naturally humid room like a bathroom or kitchen. Fertilizer. To produce their variegated foliage, Albos require more diligent feeding than regular Monstera deliciosas. That being said, these Monsteras are also susceptible to over-fertilizing, so getting it just right is important. In addition to a potting mix that is enriched with natural fertilizers, feed your plant once a month with a balanced liquid fertilizer, following product label instructions. Stop feeding altogether during the fall and winter months when the plant is no longer actively growing. Propagating Monstera Albo. Since their stunning white variegation is naturally occurring, propagating Monstera Albo is the only way to produce more of these amazing plants and is very popular as a result. It is pretty simple to do and is nearly identical to propagating regular Monstera deliciosa. However, propagating variegated Monsteras takes much longer than regular Monsteras, so be patient. It is also common to purchase these variegated Monsteras as new or established stem cuttings, so if you are looking for tips on how to care for your new Monstera Albo cutting, you can also follow these steps. Before you begin, it's important to note that Monstera Albo are propagated by stem cuttings only. To succeed, the stem cutting must have at least one node on the stem, preferably more. 1. Using a pair of sterilized sharp pruning shears or scissors, take a stem cutting from a healthy Monstera Albo. Ideally, the stem cutting should contain at least 1 to 3 nodes along the stem with at least as many leaves. 2. Remove the bottom 1 to 2 leaves from the cutting to expose the nodes at the bottom of the stem, leave at least 1 leaf at the top of the cutting. 3. Next, you will need to decide which medium you will root your cutting in. You can choose sphagnum moss, water, leca, or perlite. 4. Prepare a small container with your chosen medium. Note that sphagnum moss, leca, and perlite should all be pre-moistened and remain consistently damp throughout the whole rooting process. 5. Add your cutting to your prepared medium, ensuring that the exposed nodes at the bottom of the cutting are submerged in the medium and the remaining leaves are not. 6. Place your cutting in a location that receives bright, indirect light. Roots should begin to start growing over the next few weeks. Keep your rooting medium consistently moist, or if you are rooting in water, change the water once a week. 7. Once roots are at least 2 to 3 inches long, you can transfer your rooted cutting to a rich and well-draining potting mix. Pre-moisten the soil and plant your cutting. 8. Return your potted cutting to bright, indirect light and keep the soil evenly moist for the first 1 to 2 weeks to help the plant acclimate. Potting and repotting Monstera Albo. These monsteras are slow-growing and will likely only need to be repotted every 2 to 3 years. It is best to repot your Monstera Albo in the early to late spring or in the summer. Avoid repotting in the fall or winter months as the plant enters dormancy. Choose a pot that is one size larger than the previous pot, or 2 to 3 inches larger in diameter. The first step is to carefully remove the plant from its old pot and loosen the root ball as much as you can without breaking any roots. You want to remove as much of the old soil as possible. Next, place the root ball of the plant in the new pot and cover it with fresh potting mix, and then water it well. Return it to its original location and resume its regular watering schedule. Common pests and plant diseases. Keep an eye out for common houseplant pests like spider mites, scale, mealybugs, fungus gnats, and thrips. Regularly inspecting your plant is the best way to catch any potential infestations early. You can also regularly apply insecticide to the plant as a preventative measure. Common problems with Monstera Albo. Monstera Albo are generally easy to care for, especially if you have experience growing other types of monsteras. However, as with any houseplant, there are a few common issues that you may run into while growing these tropical plants indoors. Drooping leaves. If your Monstera Albo is displaying limp, drooping leaves, there are a few possible reasons. First, the plant may be in shock, especially if you just brought it home. Sensitive to changes in their environment, it may take a while to acclimate to a new space. Provide it with plenty of humidity and warm temperatures, which is likely what it's accustomed to. If your plant is established in your home and is still exhibiting signs of drooping leaves, then it may be underwatered or has developed root rot. Yellow leaves. Yellow leaves are an indication that something in your plant's growing environment is not right. Usually, it is a sign of overwatering, underwatering, lack of light, or improper fertilization. You will need to assess your plant's growing environment to find the most likely cause. Losing variegation. If you notice that your plant is losing variegation, it is likely not receiving enough light. Give it at least 6 to 7 hours of bright, indirect light. Consider adding a grow light to your setup if you cannot provide your Albo with adequate natural light. Brown leaves. The most common causes of browning leaves are lack of humidity, underwatering, and sunburn. Monstera Albo are particularly susceptible to brown patches on their leaves compared to the all-green Monstera deliciosa, especially in their white variegation.